Hey guys, Jason Timothy here, musicsoftwaretraining.com, and I'm back again for another music habits video. And the topic of today is going to be, don't be afraid to suck. So I usually start these off with an Amazon review. So this one, I don't have a name on it. It just says Kindle customer. But if you've read the book and you've left a review, you might be one of the next on one of my future videos. So here goes. He writes, awesome and inspiring. I know I should have probably read through and applied as I go, but I just couldn't seem to not continue reading the book. There are some things that I did implement, but I plan on reading it more than once, really more than twice. The information in this book has taught me to simplify everything, like how many software instruments, drum kits, making custom templates, to eliminate repeated actions that waste your time. I can go on and on. Thanks a lot, Jason. I plan on joining the club of followers to stay in your circle, to be motivated and motivate others. So thanks so much for whoever wrote that wonderful review. And let's go ahead and get into the topic. So once again, the topic is don't be afraid to suck. And I really kind of got this concept from an artist that I met that was actually doing ceramic work. And I was kind of fascinated at the time, you know, how he was making a living from his art, because so few people do. And I asked if I could take him out to lunch, and he shared some of his philosophies on how he built himself up. And the thing about it is he didn't start off as a really good artist. That's not really where he came. He really enjoyed doing it, but he didn't start off very good. And it took him a lot of practice to get to the point where he was good enough to sell his work. So I want to take some of his philosophies and apply it to music production. So I've just got a few notes here that I'll go through, and hopefully some of this will help inspire you and also make you feel a little bit stronger on your path towards success, especially if you feel like you're failing right now, or if you're feeling like you want to quit because this music thing is just not working out for you. Just understand that this is what everyone goes through, and it's totally normal, and the professionals are just the ones that keep going and look at failure as a step towards success. So first things first, if you plan to suck right from the beginning, you're going to have much less resistance to creating. And the goal is to really sit down and just do the work. So if you're sitting down or not sitting down to do the work because you're afraid you're going to suck, then that's going to waste a lot of your time. It's better to sit down and know you're going to suck and just go for it anyway, right? The only way you're going to get good is by sitting down and doing some work and connecting the dots. By the way, some of these things I say might kind of be repeated from different angles. So if you hear that, it just means that I'm trying to emphasize certain points to bring them home, all right? If one approach doesn't work for you, then what you do is you take kind of a scientific approach and you just look at it as one less way to fail, right? The more you fail, the less failure options you have. So the closer you're going to get to actually succeeding. You know, it's kind of like the whole Thomas Edison thing. I think it took him around 10,000 tries to successfully get the light bulb working. So had he given up sooner, he wouldn't have been known for the light bulb. Maybe someone else would have. And he's famous for that, right? He's not famous for the 10,000 failures. He's famous for the invention. Okay, so remember that when you're trying to dial in your own craft. If you want to be great at something, then don't worry so much about failing. Just think about that as part of the process. The way you should look at it is every failure is a step closer to your success and nothing more, okay? By taking the time to perfect your craft, when you do finally realize that you're reaching your goal and you do actually decide to release your music, it's going to have a much greater impact than if you try to push out your music right away when you're not satisfied with your work. In fact, that could build a reputation of you not being as good as you want to be. And by the time you do get good, you might have built a reputation of not being very good, and it'll take longer to convince people to give you the time of day, right? So much better to dial in your craft. And here's the thing is you shouldn't be kicking a dead horse with one song. Finish a song, as imperfect as it might be, whatever failure it might be, put it aside and start the next thing. Like my friend his art was ceramics. You know, he didn't try to use the same clay to perfect the part. He recognized the failure, put it aside, and got a new set of clay to start once again. And he just kept doing that over and over. And that's kind of what you need to do with music, because you're much more likely to connect the dots by finishing, putting aside, starting new, finishing, putting aside, starting new. And just doing that over and over, it'll help you connect the dots. Also, you should really think of your art as a job. Don't just think about it as something that you do for fun, because in the beginning, sometimes it's not going to be fun. So you have to love the idea of creating. You have to love the idea of getting something in your head out of your head correctly. And you have to love the idea that it takes time and skill in order to do that. And you can take pride in going through the failure, because by the time you reach success, you can look back at all the progress you made. And that is what separates the amateurs from the pros. So the question really is, how many times are you willing to fail before you give up? You know, maybe before watching this video, maybe that number was 5. Hopefully this video will inspire you to get that to 100, right? Where you're just willing to keep going and willing to notice the small pieces of progress, right? How do you define your failure? How do you look at it? If you look at failure as something that means you're not good at something and you shouldn't be doing it, then obviously every failure is going to make you feel worse and worse. If you look at every failure as a path towards your success, you're going to feel better and better and understand that you're getting more and more experience. So the way you just define failure is really important. And you know, I'm here to say that we've all been where you're at, wherever it is on that path. And the only difference between you and your heroes is just time and effort. That's the only difference, is they just put in the time and you haven't yet. So if you want to be great at something, the path to getting there is falling short of greatness a lot, okay? Think about becoming a doctor. Do they quit after 6 months because they're not yet able to, go in and work on patients? No, oftentimes it takes 6 to 8 years to be qualified to be a doctor. Is that a failure that it took that long for them to get the skills they needed to become a doctor? No, of course not. Do they take pride in the amount of training that they went through to get better and better at their craft? Yes. Do they continue to get better at their craft even after college? Absolutely. In fact, you probably get much better at that by doing the process instead of learning about the process. So really take that into your mind when you are trying to attempt something that you're not very good at. If you love music and you love the idea of making music, then be willing to put yourself through the amount of time it would take to go through a college course, right? For many people, it takes less time to really dial in your craft, but everyone's a little bit different. So you might take longer, you might go faster. The whole thing is, the more you work on your craft, the better you'll get at your skills. And the next thing I would say is, do your best to tackle only one aspect of music production at a time. If you try to take on everything all at once, you're not going to notice your progress. And if you don't notice your progress, it's going to be much harder for you to keep moving forward and feel like you're getting somewhere. So if you need to learn a little bit of music theory, then dial that in. And remember, you don't need to be a pro at everything. There's a lot of workarounds that you can do. And what I recommend is focus on the things that you're really good at. And that could be kind of your signature. Like for me, I was always pretty good at grooves and bass lines, but I wasn't as good at melodies and things that required a lot of music theory. So I found workarounds for that. Ableton has a scale tool. I'm sure most DAWs have a tool that will correct your notes. There's many workarounds that you can have if you're not great at playing an instrument. You don't need to know that. But while you're learning, you could kind of use some of the shortcuts. You could use shortcuts for sound design. Maybe you're not great at dialing in that perfect sound, but you could pull in a sample that gets you where you want to go more quickly and use that while you're learning. But once again, learn one aspect at a time and you'll notice your improvement over time. And also the repetition of working on one thing at a time you'll remember what you've learned day after day after day. So that's another really important aspect when it comes to trying to go from failure to success, right? I mean, maybe there's a reason that they call it success. There's kind of a little suck in the word. So I say there's probably a reason for that. And I don't think it's just a happy accident. So don't be afraid to suck. That's your step forward towards success. The longer you're able to put into the game, the better you're going to get and the closer you're going to get to where you want to be. So keep at it. Don't quit. Don't think of failure as failure. Just think of it as a step closer towards success. Have a fantastic day, and I hope to speak to you soon. Hey guys, thanks again for listening. And if you like this type of content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell and set it to all posts. Don't forget that you can read my best-selling book, The Mental Game of Electronic Music Production, for free by going to musicsoftwaretraining.com/thementalgame. You'll also get my song recovery kit and my 101 Ableton tips video totally free. If you'd like to connect with me more directly to see how I might be able to help you personally, you can schedule a free 15-minute session with me by going to musicsoftwaretraining.com/application and answering a few quick questions. Happy music making, and I'll speak to you real soon.